Mr. Speaker, when the Prime Minister returned to work a week ago Monday, he said that many people were looking at the apparent success of the government's approach. But yesterday we learnt, tragically, that at least 29,427 people in the UK have now lost their lives to this dreadful virus. That's now the highest number in Europe. It's the second highest in the world. That's not success, or apparent success. So can the Prime Minister tell us how on earth did it come to this?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, first of all, of course, every death is a tragedy, and he's right to draw attention to the appalling statistics, not just in this country, but of course around the world. And I think I would echo really in answer to his question what we've heard from Professor David Spiegelhalter and others, that at this stage, I don't think that international comparisons and the data is yet there to draw the conclusions that we want.
I'm afraid that many people are concluding that the answer to my question is that the UK was slow into lockdown, slow on testing, slow on tracing, and slow on the supply of protective equipment. Mr. Speaker, on the 30th of April, the government claimed success in meeting its 100,000 tests a day target. Since then, as the Prime Minister knows, the number has fallen back. On Monday, there were just 84,000 tests, and that meant 24,000 available tests were not used. What does the Prime Minister think was so special about the 30th of April that meant that testing that day was so high?
Prime Minister.
Well, actually, I think that the Right Honourable Gentleman was right last week when he paid tribute to the amazing work of the NHS, the logistics team, everybody involved in getting up from 2,000 tests a day in March to 120,000 by the end of April. And yes, he's right that capacity currently exceeds demand. We're working on that. We're running at about 100,000 a day. But the ambition clearly is to get up to 200,000 a day by the end of this month, and then to go even higher. And as he knows and the whole House will know, testing, a fantastic testing regime is going to be absolutely critical to our long-term economic recovery.
And I want to go to yesterday's figures that show that whilst happily in hospitals it looks as though deaths are falling, deaths in care homes continue to go up. At the press conference last night, the Deputy Chief Scientific Advisor said, and I quote, "What this shows us is that there's a real issue that we need to get to grips with in relation to what's happening in care homes." I couldn't agree more. But 12 weeks after the Health Secretary declared that we're in a health crisis, I have to ask the Prime Minister, why hasn't the government got to grips with this already?
Well, actually, Mr. Speaker, I mean, he's quite right, of course, to look at the crisis in care homes, and he's absolutely right to say that there's an epidemic going on in care homes, which is something I bitterly regret, and we've been working very hard for weeks to get it down, and a huge amount of effort has been gone into by literally tens of thousands of people to get the right PPE to care homes, to encourage workers in care homes to understand what is needed. And I can tell him actually that he's not right in what he just said about the state of the epidemic in care homes. As he looks at the figures, in the last few days there has been a palpable improvement. We must hope that that continues, and we will ensure that it does continue.
Keir Starmer.
Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful for that. I was using the slide the government put up at its press conference last night, which shows, sadly, that, and I accept there's a lag to the 24th of April because of the reporting position, but that sadly deaths in care homes have been rising every time they've been reported by the ONS.